Welcome to MSP Unplugged, episode number 49. What's ahead? I'm your host, Jeff Hallish. This is our live show where we discuss different ways to run your IT business, whether it's managed services, consulting, break fix, or anything in between. Let me introduce the co-host. We have Paco LeBron from Prodigy Techs. Paco, how you doing?
Better than good, better than most.
Awesome, man. Good to have you. And also the third time person to come on the show within a short period of time. I don't know. It's been about a little over a year. Joseph Landis from Nerdio. Joseph, how you doing?
Good to see you again, Jeff and Paco. I'm quite honored that I am a 3-time performer on your podcast. So see if the third time is just as good as the first two. So thanks for having me.
Good to have you. All right, Paco, let's go ahead and talk about TechCon Unplugged 2021. All you, my friend.
Well, if you haven't tuned in lately, we have an event coming up in September 17th to the 19th, specifically this year, called TechCon Unplugged. It is a IT business owners conference / meetup / whatever you want to call it. But it's a great time to get together with like-minded business owners. We're going to be able to rub elbows since we can't really press the flesh with the times that we're in. We're going to be able to go ahead and get a lot of great knowledge sharing and vendor partners that are going to be really speaking to their expertise, especially with a lot of the things going on in the industry right now. And more important, I think we're going to have a lot of great fun, entertainment, and we'll feed you. So you will be taken care of once you purchase a ticket, which is $199. And we'll take care of you Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. There's going to be 2 socials, Friday night and Saturday. Saturday, we're going to have it over at Dave & Buster's, which was a hit in our 2019 event, which we had a lot of great time. So this year, unlike in 2019, we are going to be back here in Chicago. We're going to be at the Aloft Hotel in Rosemont, which is in the Chicagoland area. And the reason why we decided to kind of bring it back and why we're even throwing this event is we want to make sure that it's a place that's convenient for all the audience to get to. So what have we done? We've gone ahead and make sure to take travel arrangements as easy as possible to get to the hotel. So if you're flying in, you can catch a free shuttle. If you're driving in, you'll have free parking along with your hotel stay, which we were able to negotiate down to $124 a night. And we're also coming out with some other great opportunities as well. We do have some airlines that we got some discounts for. I believe American Airlines had came through with that. We'll be updating the site fairly soon. And we're in talks with 2 other airlines as well. So we're trying to do what we can to make it as convenient as possible. We also have safety in mind as well. So if you want to go ahead and partake, as we will be revealing the vendors that have signed up thus far, and we have a lot of great ones returning, and we have a lot of great ones that are new to our meetup as well in our conference. So go over and to techconunplugged.com, purchase your ticket, because again, with a lot of the restrictions with our current time with COVID, we only have X amount of seats that are available. So we will put you on a wait list if we happen to sell out, which I believe we are close to getting there probably, or at least halfway there. And we'll put you on a wait list. If we get things unrestricted and a little loosened, we'll make sure to invite you all back there. So if you are planning to attend, do purchase your ticket now. There is a no risk by purchasing, because if the restrictions are still in place, or if you're not comfortable coming in past September 1st, obviously you get 100% of your money back. So techconunplugged.com, September 17th to the 19th over at Chicago / Rosemont, Illinois.
Thank you very much, Paco. And if nothing else, I promise to be entertaining if there's no entertainment there. That's all I can tell you. I'm excited about it. It's going to be a great time, and I encourage everybody. We know with all the stuff that's in place nowadays, everybody's kind of got their mind. There's 2 camps of people. There's people who are hunkered down and just kind of waiting things out. And then there's the other camp that's like going, they're raring to go. They're ready to get out. They want to go now, no matter what. And so we understand that. And that's why we even are attempting to throw this year, because as everybody knows, last year it got shut down because everything was still uber crazy. So anyways, hopefully we will see you all there. And like Paco said, hey, check it out, because we're not here to, take your money or anything like that, other than if you're going to attend and get something out of it. That's what we do. So it's all for you, because I'll be honest with you, if it was up to me, it wouldn't be, because it's a whole heck of a lot of work. So And, you know, I want to do other things. I don't know. Anyways, so, but we're excited to have people want to do this. And yeah, ticket sales have started off gangbusters. I was really, really amazed late last year. People started buying tickets already. So it's been good. All right. So let's go ahead. So Joseph, people have heard you on the podcast before. So we're not going to go back and revisit your origin story. You can go look at those other episodes with Joseph on there from Nerdio and, you know, check out his origin story. But let's go ahead and talk about, we are in 2021. It's January of 2021. We've just come out of 2020 and everybody's kind of looking to what's ahead. Where do we go from here? What things do we need to look at in order to be able to move our businesses forward? Because I think there was a lot of concerns, and I think there was a couple different camps of people again last year who a lot of people did really well during the whole COVID thing, and there were other people that were hurting. And so and it all depends on how their businesses were set up, what they were doing in their business. But when we look forward to 2021, everybody wants a good, happy note. And where can we go from here? Because we know that things have changed for probably the better, I would imagine, when it comes to the IT space. But it's also scary because nobody in their right mind likes change. And especially as you get older, I will attest to that. I hate change, even though I'm forced to do it, but I still have to do it in order to move forward. So what are some of the things that we need to look forward to in 2021?
Well, I'd say certainly Jeff and Paco, we have to look forward to TechCon. So that's exciting, and look forward to hopefully participating in that. I agree with what Paco said and what you said, that there are a lot of people that are raring to go. There are a lot of people who would like to get back out and share ideas and meet each other again. Not that we can't do it in a virtual format like this. And I'll talk, in fact, about a virtual event that we're hosting next week in a few minutes. But, the opportunity to be able to gather with your fellow business owners and to exchange ideas and to learn from each other is always great. And I'm sure that TechCon is going to be a great event. So, I think to understand what's ahead for us in 2021, nobody likes to revisit the past, particularly a past like 2020, which was so difficult, but it's oftentimes instructive in terms of being able to predict the future. And certainly one of the biggest trends that kicked off in a much more robust way in 2020, and that I believe will continue in 2021, is the need for MSPs to adopt new technologies to support the remote work trend. We all know, we've spoken about it on this podcast, that when COVID hit, unfortunately, in March and April, and it started really ramping up, MSPs, it wasn't that they couldn't get to their client's office to necessarily support them. They couldn't even get to their own office to be able to support them. So it forced a lot of MSPs to really rethink fundamentally how they run their own practice. So I always talk, and we've talked on this show about MSP inertia. You sort of just referred to it, Jeff. Nobody likes change. You get your coffee every day from the same coffee shop, and then one day a new coffee store opens up down the road. Do you go to the new coffee store? You might go one time to just to check it out. But if you go to the same coffee store you've always gone to, where they know your name and they know what kind of coffee you like, inertia is just going to pull you in that direction. And I think certainly in the MSP world, you have a lot of MSPs that are very used to doing things a certain way. And at Nerdio, where we are all about empowering MSPs to build successful cloud practices in Microsoft Azure, when we speak with MSPs and we ask them, why are you not moving to the cloud with Microsoft Azure? Certainly inertia plays a big role in that. I've always bought a server from Dell or HP or wherever. I install it at the customer site in the closet. Yes, it accumulates some dust over time. Sometimes it's used as a footrest by the receptionist at the front desk, but I know how to do it. I know how to make money doing it, and that's just how I run my practice. And then, the MSP is faced with a life-changing experience like we had with COVID, where they can't get to their office, they can't get to their customer's office, so they have to be able to adapt to the new circumstances and adopt new technology like remote work. And MSPs are going to need to be ready to adapt and adopt new technologies to continue supporting the long-term remote work demands and the changing needs of their customers. Whether that is Microsoft functionality like Teams or Microsoft 365, broadly speaking, and of course, as we believe, bringing your customers' infrastructure into the cloud with Microsoft Azure and starting to bet on the public cloud. So I certainly think that, as I think about 2021 predictions, the ability to not just have it as an option, but to have it as a primary way that you run your MSP practice and that you manage your customers, where cloud is a first-class citizen. It's the primary way that you run your operation. I think that certainly is the first prediction I would make. Do you agree with that, Jeff and Paco?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you hit it right on the head where, we all had to adjust in 2020 and then going into 2021. Now that we've adjusted, how do we flourish, right? And, looking into that option of cloud and what Microsoft in specific has done to make it easier for a lot of not only our clients to get remote, communicate, talk. They also allowed for us as the managed service providers, IT business owners, to retire a lot of older systems. So, and save clients money in the long run. And that's really what we were able to do and take advantage of with, let's say, for example, Teams, where we had clients that were on a VoIP system. They were, let's say, they were able to try and get into paying all these other different individual bills. Now that they're remote, do they need that actual VoIP provider along with their Microsoft Teams that's included in their solutions, or do we just include business voice and have them keep going, right? And rolling that into our offerings and how increase our stickiness into the engagement of the client. But I think for us, speaking specifically with Prodigy Text, not only have we embraced the Microsoft 365 environment as a whole, but I think in the last 8 months, Microsoft has really made a lot of things easier for us to do management of devices. So one of those being the changes that they did with Microsoft Intune, which now is Microsoft Endpoint Manager, and kind of rolling everything in there and having autopilot be such a, what's the word I'm looking for? Crucial setting systems in place where I could ship a laptop from my distributor and the client could log in and all their stuff is there. Right. And being able to deploy what we used to have for GPOs on a server on-prem, we've now embraced on a lot of this going through Azure, going through utilizing those Microsoft tools. And I think it just speaks to how that mindset is going. And really, I would even argue that, the per user model is even more important nowadays, especially as we focus on identity management. And that's where really Azure, it really helped plays in that piece.
So Paco, if we peel the onion back another layer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So MSPs like you, right, and others previously built an IT plan, an IT structure for their customers with one location in mind,
right?
Maybe occasional remote use. And I think in 2021, based on our learning from this past year, because many companies have transitioned to a fully remote workforce due to the pandemic, and I don't see that that's necessarily going to change, because I think there's a lot of benefits companies are seeing to at least having more remote workers. MSPs are going to need to plan their IT for customers with maybe reduced staff in one location and permanent remote use. They'll be serving geographies and locations that they maybe didn't cover before or plan for. They're used to, you're sort of used to getting in your car and driving out to the customer, and kind of all the people are there that you need to talk to. But now, someone at the company you're serving IT for might say, yeah, you know what, this employee, they're not in Chicago anymore, they moved to Texas. So you're not gonna be able to get in your car and do something. So you're gonna need a way to cover multiple locations, multiple cities. And I think MSPs are gonna need to think more holistically about their remote work offerings to be able to stay competitive and serve remote customers as we move on in 2021 and beyond. It's gonna be have to be table stakes for an MSP.
Yeah, I mean, I think really specifically on those two pieces, it really has opened a lot of eyes, including my own, on the support level that we can provide to our clients. And like you said, one example is our users may not be in the city or town where the office used to be. There are some that have moved back home. There are some that have moved back because their businesses made the decision to go fully remote. So, in my case, I've had two scenarios where one, I had the president of one of my customers, companies, and, she's out in Boston. So, and when it comes to remote items, that's easy. And you never think about like, well, I can do close to 90% of what we do anyway remotely. But then it came to the question of, all right, she had a system issue. She needed a wipe and reload. How do we handle that? Right. And, you have Intune, you have these type of items that can handle. But then what the second piece comes to play, especially for those that are small MSPs, one-man shops, is leveraging your IT community that you belong to and helping to get those boots on the ground. So I'm lucky enough where I have the MSP Unplugged community where I had leveraged one of our community members, and they were able to assist a client for me. And now I have a reach out in this case, it was Boston, to help me out with that client if she had any problems moving forward. Then on the flip side, you have the ability of clients to have multiple locations in other cities that now you can take on that responsibility. So again, in this scenario, I had a client that has one of their smaller offices here, but his main operation is out in New York. So he just came to us and said, hey, do you have the capabilities to support us? And now I've understand, okay, remotely, yes. Boots on the ground, I can put a call out into a community that I belong to. And for those that don't feel that they do belong to, and you just maybe just listening to, that's why we suggest you, and we'll talk about it later in the show on supporting the podcast, to join the community. Or there are plenty of other communities out there as well. There's Facebook groups, there's LinkedIn groups, there are other forums and things of that nature to belong to a community that can help extend your reach. And there are businesses, organizations that specifically highlight that, like ASCII, et cetera. So I say all this to say that, this has really opened the eyes of flexibility, and you can't just think of remote work just for your clients. You have to figure out how you can do remote work yourself so that you can support in all those different places where, like you said, you can't get in a car and just head over there like we're programmed to do.
Yeah, I think when we think about things like remote work and kind of the diversity of the workforce as far as people working remotely, I think a lot of companies have come to the point where they go, hey, I have the ability now. I see that I don't have to have everybody in an office. And then on the flip side of that, what I've heard from business owners of all different facets is that some people, yes, they can work from home. Others cannot because they're just not, they're not self-contained. But I think overall, it's going to change the landscape. And I think the companies that realize that a lot of people can work or do their job from home, I think they're going to continue on with that. And so I think now in 2021, COVID back in 2020 has kind of pushed the envelope to push people more towards the cloud offerings, where I think, Joseph, when a lot of MSPs talk, they're going, yeah, I don't want to keep everything in the cloud. It's like, and I tell an old story where back in the day, I remember when people, I was ordering stuff online. I was using a credit card to order stuff online. And people would come to me, a lot of my clients, it was mostly residential, would say to me, well, I don't want to use a credit card online. That's unsafe. And I go, hold on. I said, do you remember back in the 70s when you had things like a Sears catalog sent to your home?
Right.
When you used to order something, how'd you pay for that? Well, when I called them up, I gave them my credit card number. Oh, yes. You gave them a credit card. I said, where did they put that credit card number? Oh, either in a computer database somewhere or something, but it was logged somewhere, whether it was a paper file, didn't matter, but the information was out there. I said, you're more secure nowadays with the things that are in place to keep you safe, but it's getting past that hurdle of understanding that the cloud's not bad, or that putting things online is not bad. Because here is my thing to people that are scared of being online: get off. If you want to be safe, get off, because unplug. Go back to a notepad and pen, because that's the only way that you're going to be, I wouldn't even say 100% safe, but safer than you would be online. So understand that a lot of companies are putting things in place that are there to keep security high, to help you be able to do your business, because this is the digital age. It's the way it's going, whether you want it to or not. And I think people need to get out of their own way and understand that they need to change the way they do some of the things. Maybe not all right now, but these are stepping stones. And I think instead of getting stuck in your ways, you need to think about, how can I move forward and stay relevant in today's day?
I agree. And again, I think it comes back, Jeff, to the flexibility and the ability for an MSP to break through the inertia. You know, we had a very interesting case towards the beginning of COVID. So we were working with an MSP in the Denver, Colorado area. And all of a sudden we got a call. They had a client who was managing a call center. They had about 50 employees in the call center. And unfortunately, someone in the call center was diagnosed with COVID. So they had to shut down. This is, in April, when still things were fairly new to a lot of people. Like, we knew what it was, but so they had to shut down the call center, and they had to send everyone home. Now, if you looked at the way the call center was set up, you had basically little cubicles. Each person was sitting in a cubicle with a desktop PC and a monitor, a large monitor. It wasn't practical for each person to just sort of like pick up the desktop and the monitor and walk out the door. I mean, I guess they could have put it in their car or something, but it wasn't practical, right?
So I played LAN games.
Well, maybe.
And carry all that stuff underneath my arm. 17.
Right. I mean, but these days people don't seem to do that anymore. But so they called us up. They said, "What do you recommend?" We said, "Well, fortunately, Microsoft has this great technology that they came out with called Windows Virtual Desktop. And it's something that Nerdio has made a very big bet on." And what is Windows Virtual Desktop? In brief, it allows you to stream your Windows 10 desktop from any device and anywhere. So you could now be sitting in your living room holding your iPad or your Chromebook or your laptop or whatever it is, and you have access to your personal desktop, to your files and folders. So imagine now, this MSP was able to work with us at Nerdio. We spun up these 50 users in Windows Virtual Desktop literally overnight. And now everybody in the morning, when they woke up, wherever they were, at their homes mainly, they were sent an icon that they clicked on. All of a sudden, their desktop was there on their device, and they were able to be as productive as they were. One could argue potentially even more productive than having to commute each way and sort out what they're going to eat for lunch and all this and that. They were able to be more productive sitting at home on the device of their choice, and keep going. So part of it is certainly the piece where MSPs need to ride the wave of technology that's there and investigate the types of technologies that they can use to move to the cloud and to leverage remote work. I think the good news is that the amount of technology that's available now to support these scenarios is significantly more than a year ago, right? I think Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, some time ago said that the industry's made 2 years of progress in 2 months, and I think that's certainly the case.
When I think when you talk about things like virtual desktop, let's think about the cost savings of now. If I go to a virtual desktop and I don't have to buy all this hardware, how much money can I really save?
A lot, right? Because the whole concept, as we've talked about on this podcast once before, the whole concept of moving to Microsoft Azure, to the public cloud, is you're moving to a consumption-based economy, a consumption-based model. You only pay for what you use. And a lot of times when you go out and you buy a server, as an MSP, you get kind of nervous, like, I'm not going to have enough space, I'm not going to have enough power. So you end up over-speccing what you're purchasing to make sure that the customer is happy. And they never use anywhere close to what it is you purchase for them, right? From a hardware perspective. Now you have the ability to move to the cloud, to have a much lower per user per month cost to you for Microsoft Azure, Microsoft 365. maybe some of your other tools that you use. And you're able as an MSP to do two things. You're able to increase your margins dramatically, and you're able to offer your customer a more competitive quote, quite frankly, than the person down the street who's not in the cloud. But it requires, as we've always talked about, it requires learning. It requires doing it once and seeing how it goes. I always say you have to win somewhere before you win everywhere. You're not going to build a cloud practice overnight. You are going to start by bringing your first customer to the cloud, learning, understanding how it works, understanding how you make money. Once you bring your first customer to the cloud, then you'll do your second, then you'll do your third. And next thing you know, your whole practice will be transformed, and you will find yourself making a lot more money as an MSP owner. That's for sure. We see it every day.
And one of the things that you on the examples were like virtualizing the desktops, but there's many applications obviously that we can do for this. And one example that I can think of is, for those that have on-prem apps and being able to get that into a hosted server/desktop environment. For example, like QuickBooks being one of the more common ones that are going. Can you go into a little bit more as far as, how have you seen some MSPs trying to get on-premise apps from physically into the cloud for Azure, and, how have they been making those strides trying to do that method?
Well, you certainly mentioned the one that is the most common. I think it's QuickBooks, right? I think, you sort of in every small business, you tend to find a QuickBooks server. And it's exactly what I said before. It's like, it's the footrest for the receptionist at the front desk. And, you, the MSP owner, have to sort of go in and service this QuickBooks server. And it's sort of annoying in a way, is what we hear from MSPs, right? I mean, and then it starts dying. And then you have to say to the company, okay, you know what? Like, we really don't need to buy another server. So that is by far, when you think about putting an app up in the cloud and leveraging Microsoft Azure for it, that is certainly a primary example, Paco, of an app that is ripe for movement. And there are others as well, right? I mean, it could be Sage, it could be any of the others. But I always talk about, when you're an MSP and you're thinking about moving to the cloud, what's important is to find that first use case, right? It could be the one you just brought up. It could be, hey, I have a QuickBooks server that I want to get out of, this office, and I want to move it up to the cloud. It could be incremental backup and storage. It could be a secondary domain controller. It could be many, many different things. But find that first use case. Yeah, I always find it funny when MSPs say, I'll do a presentation. I have this one presentation I do is quite popular called Demystifying Azure for MSPs. And we get to the end and we open up Q&A, and people say, wow, Joseph, that was super interesting. I didn't know that you could actually make more money in the cloud. But you know what? I can't think of any customer of mine that I should move to the cloud. And then I always sort of joke and I say, I can't think of an MSP who doesn't have at least one customer that they can move to the cloud. Because if you just think about the average cycle of servers, and you have, let's say you have, you have 15 clients, 20 clients, 50 clients, every year you're going to have some number of clients where it's probably time to refresh that server. And why go through the process of buying another server and putting it in? Why do that? That doesn't make sense. It's not where the world is. And again, I think if you look back to the Microsoft 365/Office 365 example, 4 years ago, I was at Microsoft at the time, as you both know. We had the same conversation with people. They're like, I'm okay managing an Exchange server on premises. That's okay, no problem. I do that. And then I think people started waking up to the realization that, it's actually not so fun to manage an Exchange server. There's not such a reason to do it. And if Microsoft has this service that really takes that out of your hands and makes it much easier, you could focus on much higher value work for your clients. So I think it's always about finding that first use case. And fortunately, I think most MSPs have taken that first step to the cloud with Office 365, Microsoft 365. And now it's a question of finding that first customer that you want to bring to the cloud and just taking that leap and doing it.
Hey, I've got a couple of questions here from
Sure.
the chat room, and I'm going to pull this up on screen.
Okay.
This from ProTech Guy. He says, how does this compare to a remote connection such as ConnectWise, Control, TeamViewer, etc.?
Yeah, I can't say that I'm a big team viewer or ConnectWise control expert. I think when we think about Microsoft Azure, we're thinking about really taking all of the infrastructure that you have purchased and moving it into the cloud, all of the infrastructure, all of the apps, and really building a complete cloud environment. And the great thing about Microsoft Azure that goes, sort of well beyond what a TeamViewer or ConnectWise control, and those are fine products, don't get me wrong, but goes well beyond is when you make the commitment to something like Microsoft Azure and of course Microsoft 365, the possibilities for you are almost limitless. What do I mean by that? If we think about where we are in sort of the evolution of the MSP space, so again, not to be too repetitive, but step one to move to the cloud was Office 365. That was the first step people took to saying, I'm in the cloud. And if you think about the MSPs who have started to take the leap into the cloud from the infrastructure perspective, from the IaaS perspective, with Azure, they are now positioning themselves to take what I would call the third step, which almost no MSP has done, and that's the PaaS step, the platform as a service step. So imagine, if you have all of your clients in the cloud, imagine that, you're an MSP and you're fully cloud. You have all your clients in the cloud. Think of the PaaS, the platform as a service things that you could do by leveraging Microsoft Azure. What if you used Azure's bot framework to set up a bot, like a Q&A bot for help desk support, right? I mean, imagine that. Imagine if you were able to, let's say you had a law firm as your client, and you were able to leverage Azure Search, another service they have, another PaaS service, to be able to give a service to the customer, to the law firm that can comb all of their files and folders and extract important data. Like, hey, I think I worked on a case last year that had the same person ran the red light at this, stop light. Where was that? I don't remember, but you could use Azure Search to comb the data and present it to you in a certain way. Like that's next level for an MSP. That's where an MSP is going to really, really differentiate themselves, down the road. But you can't get to step three, to PaaS, let's say, without first committing to IaaS, right? I think there's three stages for an MSP. There's SaaS, IaaS, and PaaS. You've already done SaaS with Microsoft 365. You're using Microsoft's most popular SaaS product. You've got that locked in, and as an MSP, you should probably leverage more functionality like Teams and other things that not everyone is leveraging yet, right? Okay, you've got that down. Step two, IaaS. You got to commit to Microsoft Azure, to the public cloud, to removing all the servers, to getting all of your data in the cloud. Then step three is leveraging your move to the cloud with platform as a service and adding these incredible value add items that you can provide to your customers that, quite frankly, hardly any MSP that I speak to is even thinking of. So to me, that's how it really differentiates. You're with TeamViewer and others, you're talking about sort of very point solutions to allow someone to maybe view their desktop, in a remote way, and that's cool. But what you're talking about here with Microsoft Azure is really transforming your business and transforming the way you can provide value to your end clients. And that's going to make your relationship with them stickier. And quite frankly, it's going to increase your monthly recurring revenue over time.
All right. One other question.
Sure.
Chat room. This is from Mike Jan, and it says, what about proprietary software, which doesn't have wide support, ways to move those to Azure? There's not an issue with that once you're setting up a virtual desktop, because you're still buying licenses, correct?
Yeah, usually not. It's hard to say without knowing the specific example and seeing it. But we certainly, when we as a ISV, independent software vendor for Microsoft, when we work with MSPs, when we have a separate side of our business now that's more about very large enterprise clients in WVD. I mean, we see all kinds of proprietary apps. We see all kinds of homegrown apps, and usually, in the majority of the time, it works very well. Sometimes there are some tweaks that need to be made, but overall, that's really not an issue.
Okay, very cool. And one more. So,
Sure.
And I think that's maybe this will, you can give a little bit better clarification on this one. It says, so what would you replace the physical workstation with? A Raspberry Pi or the like, or something a bit more robust like a low powered Intel Nook, Lenovo Tiny? You wouldn't actually, if you're doing it in the cloud, you wouldn't have to have a piece of hardware though, correct?
Well, you would need I think what this person, ProTech guy, is asking is, what is the piece of hardware that you would see your desktop on, right? What is the device that your desktop would show up on, right? And the answer to that is actually it could be a Raspberry Pi device. It could be as small as a Raspberry Pi device. It could be as large as a 60-inch Surface Studio and everything in between. And that's sort of the beauty of Windows Virtual Desktop, is that, you're right, Jeff. It's Microsoft Azure is what is streaming your Windows 10 desktop down onto the device. But the device itself can really be anything. It could be a Raspberry Pi device. It could be a zero client, a thin client. It could be a laptop, a notebook, an iPad, a Chromebook, a phone, although I don't find a phone to be that good for that sort of thing. It could be a regular laptop. It could be a huge Surface Studio. It could be anything. And that's really, I think, what I would say is really the number one value proposition of Windows Virtual Desktop is sort of anywhere on any device.
Very cool.
Yeah. And Microsoft, I think it's sort of a good segue into, maybe my final prediction, if you will, for 2021. I don't know if this is really a prediction, but, we work very closely with Microsoft. They're our closest technology partner. Our whole company is based on Microsoft Azure. And I think it's a fair prediction to make that Microsoft is going to continue to make significant investments in the MSP ecosystem as we move into 2021. I spent 23 years at Microsoft, and I would say that I wouldn't say that the MSP ecosystem was Microsoft's number one priority. I think that's changing to a large extent. I think a lot more people at Microsoft are really understanding the power of the MSP channel to really bring more small and medium businesses to the cloud. And I think we're going to see a lot more technology improvements, for MSPs. And we certainly at Nerdio are partnering with Microsoft to do that. I think I mentioned earlier in the show, we have a big virtual conference next week. It's called NerdioCon. You don't have as much time to sign up as Paco told you for TechCon, because it's actually on Tuesday the 26th and Wednesday the 27th of January. So if you're listening to this now, please feel free to sign up. If you listen to it in the next few days, we hope to see you there. If not, everything will be recorded. But at NerdioCon, we're actually partnering with Microsoft to put on this 2-day virtual event. We're going to have a bunch of really great keynote speakers. On day one, we're going to have Gabriela Schuster, their channel chief, will be speaking, their corporate vice president of the partner channel worldwide. On day two, we're going to have Cam Vedbrad, who runs Windows Virtual Desktop engineering. We have a lot of other Microsoft and industry speakers. So whether you're a business owner, whether you are the tech lead at an MSP, or anywhere in between, we're going to have deep technical content for you. We're going to have business related content for you. And we're going to be announcing on Wednesday a brand new Nerdio product, which will be the evolution of our current product, Nerdio for Azure. So you're not going to want to miss that. It's something we've actually been building with Microsoft for a little bit of time now. And I bring it up again because I think really Microsoft has become much more committed to the MSP channel, both on the business side and the technology side. And the fact that they're partnering with us to come out with this brand new product that is really designed from the ground up for MSPs is exciting. It's exciting for us. It should be exciting for the ecosystem. And if you want to register for NerdioCon, just go to our website, getnerdio.com, whack NerdioCon. There's no charge. We'd love to have you there. Stay for as long as you'd like. Wear your pajamas, eat food during it, whatever you want to do. It's super casual, and it's all about learning and growing and learning how to build a cloud practice in Microsoft Azure and Windows Virtual Desktop.
Now, if they go to that after the fact, will the recorded videos be on the website and all that kind of?
They will. Yes, we're going to have all the recordings on the website. You could watch at your leisure. We've had a lot of partners reach out to us from Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Thailand, wanting to know, like, hey, I'd like to come, but it's kind of in the middle of the night for me. Are you going to record it? Absolutely. Everything's going to be recorded. I think the event itself will be really fun. We've set it up. It's going to actually be running on Microsoft Teams live events. And we're working with an interesting company called Opsgility that has created an event platform on top of Teams live events. So you'll be able to sort of come in and watch the keynote, and then you'll be able to choose from a variety of sessions that you want to go to. You want to learn about Azure security, you could go to that session. We're even going to have sessions for MSPs that might make you pause for a second and say, why is Nerdio doing this? But for example, we're going to have a session on how to create great videos for your MSP practice to reach out to your SMB customers. Because we use video a tremendous amount when we talk about technology, and we really learned how to do that. We actually come out with a new video every day. And we had someone teach us, so we're going to bring this company in to teach MSPs. Because again, to build a successful cloud practice in Azure, there's the technology side, but there's also the business side as well, right? So we'll have everything, no matter what direction you want to go in. I think, Paco, you talked about earlier some of the great ecosystems that will be there. You mentioned ASCII. ASCII is going to be actually part of the day one keynote with Gabriella. So Jerry, their president's going to be participating, which is great. We're going to have other ecosystems there. Cloud distributors will be there speaking. So we look forward to welcoming everyone there. GetNerdio.com, whack NerdioCon.
Yeah, I mean, on the piece of content marketing, I think that's a big piece as well, because, having that and utilizing that to spread your message versus in written form or trying to knock it all out in a meeting or a sales meeting is huge. So that's pretty impressive. And then I have a selfish question is, after the virtual event for NerdioCon, is there any plans of NerdioCon being an actual physical event in Chicago, since obviously you're right in my backyard?
That is a great question, Paco. So just to give you the insider information on this podcast, NerdioCon version 1 was supposed to be in Cancun, Mexico.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That was the first idea. And we said, we'd like to do an event for our existing partners, because, we have a lot of partners. We have thousands of partners who've made an investment in Nerdio, and we want to do something special for them. We want to, bring them out to Cancun and not just, talk about technology, but sort of, sit around the pool and just talk about things and get to know each other better. And that was the original idea. Unfortunately, as we all know, that can't happen. So my answer to you, Paco, is we fully expect that NerdioCon 2022 will be in Cancun. I'm not saying we couldn't do like a local event in Chicago. If you would like as well, we can. But we'd love to have both of you and all of your listeners come join us there as well. And I hope that we all, no matter who is listening to this podcast, are in a place where we'll be able to do that, because it means that things in the world will be a lot better next year. So God willing, that will be possible.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so I think let's go ahead and take a quick break, and then we'll get back into the content. If you'd like to support what we're doing here, and that's, giving you information, bringing people like Joseph on the show to give you good information to move your business forward, and it helps you, I would encourage you to go to patreon.com/MSP Unplugged. And what does that do? That helps us with the cost of running a podcast. The costs aren't super great, but they're still there. And it's nice to have that, the ability to be able to pay for those things by you guys. A little bit from everybody goes a long way. So with that being said, part of what you get when you become a supporter through Patreon is we charge, it's $1 a show. There's 4 or 5 shows a month. Most of the time 4, every once in a while 5. So $4 or $5 a month. And I think you can, I was just noticing the other day, I think you can cap it at a certain amount, and that's fine too. But if you give to the show, what we do is we allow you into the super secret Facebook group where we have nice people like Paco and others who will share good information. And they're not going to look at you like you don't know what you're doing or anything like that, because we don't tolerate any bullying, any of that type of stuff where you get, in places like, Reddit, where people pick on people all the time for absolutely no reason. And you also won't get what I really can't stand when it comes to things like this, is somebody answering a question by either not just asking another question, but going off in a totally different direction. And so everybody has been very good on there over the last few years that we've ran this. Very nice. I think we got 156 people in that group right now, something like that. And it's been great because people are there to help each other. If somebody's got a question, they'll throw it up. A couple people answer the question. Quite honestly, I don't answer a whole lot of questions because by the time I get in there and look at it, it's already been taken care of. So we have a way smarter audience than I am, and they can answer those types of questions for you. So it's a nice, safe environment that you can be a part of. Like I said, Buck a Show, patreon.com/MSP Unplugged. Check it out. And I want to thank all of our Patreon supporters that continuously support us. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Patreon's become a big thing as an aside.
It really has. It's I think it's an easy way, and I think people are familiar enough with it.
Yeah.
I think in anything that we do, familiarization is 9/10 of the law, right? Because if you're familiar with something, you're a little more likely to use it. So it's been and there's all kinds of things that'll come down the road, and
I like Patreon. I mean, it also sort of supports the notion that content is worth something, right, to people. And it's, content is another way to experience things and to learn, right? And people actually put a lot of effort into creating great content. So I think it's a great thing. I'm glad that there is such an organization like Patreon that does that. So
yep, absolutely.
Yeah, good.
All right. So with that being said, I think as we're looking forward, as we're ending the show out here into 2021, Paco, do you have any other thoughts to give to people to help them move forward in their businesses from this standpoint of things to think about and things to be, maybe things to try, things to do, not to be afraid of, all those kind of, good positive notes?
Well, I mean, I think that, and I can easily turn this to a question to Joseph as well, is, always make sure to kind of stay on top of a lot of these trends, because I think that, some may just die out, but others may flourish, and they may just be, depending on where you put your flag at, that's kind of where you want to take your piece to. But kind of wrapping this back up of, in this particular topic and the expertise that Joseph has, outside of, definitely heading to NerdioCon and understanding or attending one of your sessions of demystifying Azure, are there any resources or where can they go to just understand one? Because I think when everyone hears Azure, I think when they first came out, when Microsoft mentioned Azure, it was kind of just like you mentioned, this mystifying thing of, well, what does Azure do? And don't understand the many facets of how you can mold and shape and take advantage of these services with Azure. But if someone wanted to just get more resources on how to implement Azure into their own practice, whether that is WVD, Windows Virtual Desktop, Azure Active Directory, a lot of the other items that you can do with Azure, what's the best place for them to kind of start, and then allowing them to kind of go in whatever path they decide to choose?
Yeah, so Paco, I'll give two answers to that question. So certainly at Nerdio, we've made a very big investment in helping MSPs build a successful cloud practice in Microsoft Azure. If you go to our website to get nerdio.com, we have something there called the Nerdio Academy, which is totally free. You don't have to be a Nerdio partner to use it. And we have, I'd say now about 800, maybe 900 now, videos and documents from the most basic to the most technical. So if you want to just, sort of learn what is Microsoft Azure all about, what do I need to know as an MSP, we have that. If you've already mastered it and you want to go into some very, very deep tech discussion, we have that as well. So certainly we're happy to help you at Nerdio at getnerdio.com. Microsoft, of course, has great resources also where people can learn for free. The one that comes to mind is something called Microsoft Learn. If you go to Microsoft.com and search, or if you just search in your friendly search tool, just type in Microsoft Learn for Azure, and you'll see all kinds of classes, trainings, certification, learning paths that I think is a great resource for anyone getting going. Again, it could be I know nothing about this to something much more technical. For folks who are running an MSP practice and wanting to commit to Azure, I always recommend that you have at least one of your techs start pursuing the certification path for Azure. I think the Azure Fundamentals 900 course is really the first one to learn. But that's a great thing about the world we live in today. There's a ton of resources for people, and there's almost no excuse to say, I just can't find something to help me learn. It's there. So we'd love to have you at Nerdio. Our partners, Microsoft, have great resources also, and I'm sure you can even find resources beyond that.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I think with that being said, Joseph, is there any other things that maybe we haven't touched on today that you want to mention as far as 2021 and what people can be looking forward to? I know we covered a lot in the show already, so there's a lot of information. I want to give information overload, but there's always little pieces of information that might help people move forward.
I'll close with an interesting statistic because I always like to say this. And if you look at Microsoft's quarterly earnings reports that they do, of course, this is all public information. Anyone could go look. If you look at the last quarterly earnings report they did, and I'm sure it'll be similar this quarter next week, Microsoft announced that they grew their Azure business almost 50% year on year. Now think about that for a moment. Microsoft Azure has been around for more than 10 years and is greater than $10 billion of revenue to Microsoft, right? How many businesses in the world can you think of that are growing 50%, that have been around for 10 years and are more than $10 billion? There's not that many you could think of, right? So my question to the average MSP, to any MSP who's listening is, have you grown your business by 50% in the same period? If you have, that's awesome. That's great. Congratulations to you. If you haven't, it might be worth thinking about riding the wave that Microsoft has going on now with Microsoft Azure, because in the technology space, in the MSP ecosystem, we have many examples where MSPs have bet on technology for Microsoft, and the company doing the investment in all this is Microsoft. It's not you, really. I mean, yes, you need to make an investment to learn some new things, as Paco mentioned, but Microsoft's putting a huge amount of effort into Microsoft Azure. It's the number one thing that they're focused on right now. So why not be part of that? Why not check that out at least and see if it's something you can ride the wave? The wave of free training, the wave of free classes, the technology investment they're making. Microsoft, a lot of MSPs don't know this. If you are a Microsoft partner with the appropriate certification, Microsoft will pay you to run classes on Microsoft Azure for your customers. So there's a lot of opportunity there, and I that's why I always like to say, you have to think about where to lay your bets down as an MSP, and I firmly believe that public cloud and Microsoft Azure has got to be one of those. And we at Nerdio are certainly happy to help you do that. But at minimum, even if you don't go down the path with us, at least investigate it and see what's out there, because it's not going away. It's something that's going to be here for many years and will continue to grow. And if you don't make that investment, I fear that you might be lapped by someone else who has. So we're here to help you at Nerdio, getnerdio.com. My email alias, jlandes@getnerdio.com, JLANDES. Happy to help you answer any questions you want. And we love being on the podcast with both of you. So thanks for having us again.
It was awesome to have you, and great information to share and, to help people think as they move their businesses forward. So always excited to have you on the show and to be able to talk things, some that I understand and some that I don't understand as much as I probably should. So it's always good to learn new things that are available out there. And hopefully that's what this show brings to people. All right, Paco, I think with that, where can people find you? Because we've already gotten all of Joseph's credentials. So where can they find you at?
Oh, well, they can tune into this fine programming every Friday at noon Eastern, 11 Central, or they can catch us over at TechCon, September 17th to the 19th, over at TechCon Unplugged.
All right. Very good. And we will have all the show notes with all email addresses, all the links and stuff like that to check out. So obviously, probably some of it's already up there. Definitely check those out. Check out Get Nerdio. And if you're listening to this right now, hey, get signed up for the conference. Hey, it's free. It's a learning experience. Go check it out. And, even if it's after the fact, go watch your recordings. Learn something new today. Maybe make that a lifelong goal to learn something new every day. I know I personally strive to do that. And there's some days that are better than others, but most of the time I am learning new things, and that's a good thing. It keeps you young and fresh and relevant. Well, maybe not relevant, but young and fresh. Well, maybe not young and fresh, but you know what I mean. So anyways, with that, you can watch live or hang out in a chat room over on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. You can subscribe and hit that notification button so you never miss an episode. You can use your favorite podcasting app to take us with you wherever you go. You know, one of the things I just realized that I did not put in the ending here, for those that have stayed all the way till the end, I don't think I've ever put in verbally the email address for the show. Have I, Paco? What is wrong with me, and what are you doing hanging out over there not helping me out? All right, so
well, because it says Jeff at, I mean, I'm waiting for us to put info at, but I mean, that's just me.
yeah. So anyways, you can yes, we need to do that. That was just something that I quickly did. But right now, if you want to email the show, and we welcome your emails, and we will read them on the show when time permits, it's Jeff at MSPUnplugged.com. And Paco, part of the reason I didn't do that, I just don't like info. I just think it's this.
I'm just saying, if someone wants to get a hold of the both of us, they're looking for that. But but Jeff at MSPUnplugged.com.
So what I'm thinking is what we can do is we'll change it and we'll do Jocko.
Oh God, that is a terrible name. This is going off the rails really fast.
Because that's Jeff and Paco combined. Anyways. All right. You guys can check us out. And everything's always been in the show notes, so you can definitely check it out there. You can go over to MSPUnplugged.com and all that good stuff too. All right. With that, I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time on MSP Unplugged.